All right, good. Let's start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you are. This meeting was organized. Actually, Shiva, you want to introduce yourself first and the little and your group, community group, and before I actually take over the topic.
Yes, sure. Thank you for that. So I'm Shiba, group leader of San Ramon Salesforce Admin User Group since 2020, early 2020. And currently I'm a co-founder and solution architect for CFO Squared. It's a Salesforce rich partner. This year, we recently became.
Yay!
So also the board member of kindcause.org. I had the good fortune to speak at Dreamforce 3 times.
Nice.
From 21, 22, 23. It was a great experience. And I'm a great active community member and participant. I'm 16 times certified and all-star ranger.
Yay! Nice.
I'll give it over to
question. Sorry, one question.
Sure.
Where is San Ramon?
It's a part of East Bay and about 45 minutes away from Moscone Center, which most people are familiar with.
Yep. It's in San Francisco, on the other side of the bay, East Bay. I actually had to look it up in a map. See, where were you guys?
Yeah.
Good.
And I'll give it over to Krish to introduce herself.
All right, please, Krish.
Hello.
Hey, Krish.
Hello. My name is Krish. 7-time certified Salesforce developer. So that's more of my background. So I work at NPR, which is a media organization in the US. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, San Ramon is in the East Bay. And thanks for coming out, everyone. I see some familiar faces, and hopefully you guys can learn a lot about data cloud. It's a really revolutionary topic, and I guess everyone's trying to get more AI ready and CRM ready. So awesome. I'll hand it over to you.
All right, nice. So those are the two people who lead the San Ramon, California, part of the big greater metropolitan area in San Francisco. So good, thank you. All right, we're ready then? I think I am.
Ready, you're ready.
Let's do it. All right. All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's morning for those in Australia. I think it's past midnight, but that's morning on Sunday. Happy Easter. There are some people in Europe. That's evening. It's afternoon for me. It's morning in San Francisco, in San Ramon. I think it's maybe 10 o'clock, something like that. All right. So first, we're going to start with a introduction. Oh, no, actually, we're going to start with a thank you. Thank you for being here, either online or in person. And specifically, or very special thanks to the Shiba and Krish for inviting me to speak about this very interesting topic on data cloud. So my name is Andres Perez. I go by El Toro IT. You will find me on LinkedIn in El Toro IT. Please do follow me. I'll be posting a lot of things that as I learn on LinkedIn. I do a lot of blogging on my website, which is eltoro.it, which is hosted in Medium. This session and other sessions that I record on Data Cloud or maybe other Salesforce topics will be hosted on my YouTube channel. I am Salesforce certified, including the Data Cloud consultant certification, some of the architect ones, and the one that I'm really most proud because of what it means for me and the community is the instructor certification. Forward-looking statements. We have to go through this. Everybody have seen it. basically is don't make any purchase decisions based on how awesome Salesforce will be, but rather by Salesforce for how awesome it is today. So, because some of the people were new, and I was kind of expecting that, when I was building this session, we were going to do a couple slides on a review, very, very, very high level review of Data Cloud. This should not be your this should not be an introductory session. Hopefully not. Hopefully you've watched or read or some other videos or whatnot, and you have somehow a concept of a knowledge of a Data Cloud. Once we do that, then I have a section called Making Mistakes is Easy, Fixing Them is Not. We're going to go through something that it's a true story that did happen to me. Then one of the lessons that I learned out of that is to create a data dictionary. So we'll talk about what a data dictionary is. The idea is that hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that I made. You learn from my mistakes. Then we'll take a look at one case study, which is kind of going into some details for a typical example of how you would do this data dictionary. Then we'll talk about harmonization, and we'll do case study part 2, which is how do you do the harmonization actually in real project. And then we'll open the floor for Q&A. If there's any questions, please write them down on the chat window, so that at the end we'll cover them, any questions that may arise. So first of all, let's start by just trying to level down and make sure that everybody is kind of at the same level with, at least on the minimum level on Data Cloud. So Data Cloud is about getting the customer 360-degree view. From all your systems that you have, we want to get that view of your customer, regardless of regardless of which system the data comes in, regardless how the names are spelled on those systems, regardless how the phones are formatted, regardless of any information, make sure that we get all the data of our customers so we have a complete 360-degree view of our customer. And that's what Data Cloud really will help you with. And the way that it works is, you've probably seen this slide before, I call it the Data Cloud data flow, because this is how data flows in Data Cloud. So the first thing we have here is that we're going to connect different environments, Salesforce, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Commerce Cloud, but also from other systems like Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, Microsoft Azure. We have different ways of working with APIs like mobile and web, and the different API and SDKs. There's 2 types of, then we go into ingestion, which is basically getting the data. Once you're connected, read the data. That's basically ingesting. We can do ingestion in batch, on a schedule, every day, for example, or we can do a streaming, which is based on events. Once you ingest the data, we have to harmonize it. Harmonize it is basically get your data in whatever shape, format you have, and map it or put the values into a known database that we are actually providing to you. Once we have all the data of all the customers, then we're going to unify, which basically means get together all the records for each customer and put them in, I like to think about this as a bucket. Get a bucket of all the data for your customers. So if you have 1,000 customers, you should end up with 1,000 buckets. That's what unification does for you. Now that we have all the information that we need for all the different customers, then we can then analyze, predict, and act on that particular data. The most important part that you have to get right, it's this first half over here. If you get your data right, the last will be easy. If you don't get it right, the last will be really, really difficult to accomplish. All right. So that kind of, hopefully, it's at least everybody is familiar with those concepts. Hopefully that was not too much new for you guys. we're going to move into the next section, which is called Making Mistakes is Easy. Unfortunately, fixing them is not. My first project that I worked with Data Cloud. This is a true story. I was given some data and a project description. I got that data and I loaded into an AWS S3 bucket and into a Salesforce CRM org for the cases service cloud, of course. I ingested, I harmonized, I unified, I did data transforms and calculated insights. And then I tried to do a segment. My segment was very easy. Find sales done in the last 6 months. Crickets. Couldn't get any data. The segments were not finding the data that I just loaded. I was, wait, hold on. That's not cool. What happened? So what did I do? I went back into the Data Cloud and I used one tool, which is called the Data Explorer, and viewed the data for the sales transactions, which would tell me that there were customers who had purchased within the last X amount of time. But then if you look closely at the date, it's 1921, not 2021. I was like, wait, what? So then I went into my favorite tool ever. If you have followed me on Medium and you have read my blogs that I've been reading a lot about Data Cloud in Medium. If you have been reading my blogs, you'll know that I love this tool. It's called the Data Transform. But in the Data Transform, the data was actually looking like the years 0021. It's like, what? And also notice that the data type here, it is a date, but cost, which was a number, is text. So I couldn't add how much they have in total purchased because it's text, not numbers. I was like, well, no, this is not right. So let's go back and take a look at the data. This is what the CSV looks like. This is probably a screenshot from VS Code. Notice the date. This is May 15 of 2020, presumably. Well, anybody remembers Y2K? Yeah, gray hair means I've been in the industry quite a lot. So that's the reason the years are so weird. Also notice the text. There's a space in here. There's a $sign. There's a space. That's text. That is not a number. So I needed to fix this. Now, how do I fix it? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. When you ingest the data, you have the option on the, you've probably seen this screen before, is how you load the data. You have the option of specifying the format for the year. So rather than using 4 digits, just specifies 2 digits and problem solved. Well, that's easier said than done. Because you can't edit fields. The data was already loaded. I can't edit fields. Can't delete fields. You can disable them, but then you cannot re-enable them, so you can't get that too much from that. So I had to re-ingest. Load the data again. Okay, that's fine. Not just refresh it, but recreate it. Well, you cannot really re-ingest because it's already there. So you cannot write over itself. You have to delete it. All right, so delete it. Well, but you cannot delete it because the data stream is using the data space. All right, remove it from the data space. Well, you can't really because it's being mapped. Okay, unmap it. Well, you cannot really unmap it because it's being segmented. So there was a lot of work that had to be done to be able to delete that stream and recreate it again and then redo the whole thing again. Not fun. That's when I learned a very important lesson, and you've probably seen a slide kind of similar to this. I tweaked it a little bit for this presentation, but this slide was very, very popular on TDX, where Stuart and I delivered the hands-on workshop session on Data Cloud. This was one of the most, I've got a lot of messages from my LinkedIn followers, and they were really, really happy with this slide. So that's when I decided, actually, you know what? I'm going to build an entire session around this particular slide. And kind of at the same time, Shiba pinged me in LinkedIn saying, why don't you come and deliver for us at San Ramon virtually, because I live in Toronto, Canada. So I say, you know what? Let's do that. And I'm going to talk about, I'm going to build one slide around, one presentation around this particular slide. So warning, do not start by clicking buttons. Planning and design is more important than the implementation. And I call this the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time should be done on planning and design, 20% on implementation. Now, I'm not implying this has to be a waterfall approach to your project. It could be an agile with different sprints. But for each sprint, 80% of the time should be done in planning and design, and 20% of the sprint should be done on implementation. Clicking buttons is easy. Easy clicks, easy sleeps. But fixing them is a trip. That's a catchy phrase that I really like, but I cannot take credit from it because it actually was taken from a ChatGPT. Stuart, actually, we were in, I think we were in New York and about to do one of the sessions. And he's like, okay, let's ask ChatGPT for give us a catchy phrase. So that's what he came with. Easy clicks, easy sleeps, but fixing them is a trip. You've been warned. Now, what does this plan and design means? Well, first of all, define your use cases. Everything starts with use cases. The cases will drive which systems you need to bring data from, which data you need to ingest, which segments and activations you want to create. It also will help you with a mapping. You want to find standard DMOs, objects and fields, before you create custom ones. So before creating, go back to the documentation and look again. Make sure that there's actually absolutely not something similar that you can use for your fields or your objects before you start creating them. Just like in the Salesforce CRM world, does not make sense to create an object called account or contact or case, right? There's a lot of functionality around those standard objects. Similarly with Data Cloud, don't just recreate standard objects that already exist. Now, some of you may be partners or consultants. There's one special note here for you. Make sure that you talk to your customers. Your customers knows their data. You don't know their data, but they do, well, hopefully. So make sure that you're working with the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? They are the ones who hold the steak or the chicken. So I call them the chicken holders. So make sure you talk to your chicken holders and understand the data. And that is critical that you involve them in the planning and the design. They know which systems, which data. They know all the stuff that they don't know how to bring it into a data cloud. That's your job, but they know the data that they have. So talk to your chicken holders. All right. So I've kind of mentioned a little bit about the data dictionary. This is a document that will help you with your analysis, because getting the data correct in Data Cloud is critical. If you make a mistake, like forgetting the 2 years, the 2 digits for the year, there's a lot of things that you have to undo. So make sure that you are understanding this and you document this. And a good place to document it is in a data dictionary. So the data dictionary will allow you to document your analysis and make the implementation easy. It should include, at minimum, use cases. Everything in Data Cloud starts with a use case. Source systems, where are you getting your data from? Source fields, what are the tables and fields that you want to bring in from those systems? You may need to create some custom DLOs. Also make notes of your harmonization, which DLO field goes into which DMO field. And optional, you should have information to be able to accomplish segments, activations, identity resolutions, list down the matching rules, for example, calculate insights, data transforms, and testing. how are you going to validate at each step that the data that you have or what you have built in Data Cloud is actually what you want to build, right? So don't wait until you get to the segments to validate that the year is 2 digits or 4 digits, right? Do it early. The earlier you do it, the easier to correct mistakes. So plan it. Now, there's different tools. I kind of did a little bit of a Google search, and I found there's actually quite a few tools that help you with that data dictionary. We are, nonetheless, going to be using a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet will have, first tab will be for the use cases. Start with the outcome. What is it that you want to get out of Data Cloud? Because the use cases will drive the entire Data Cloud data flow. Write them down, and there's 2 reasons for that. 1, accountability, and 2, you limit the project scope. If it isn't the use cases, I'll do it. If it ain't, I ain't doing it. I'll wait until the next cycle, the next version, the next project, the next whatever. So then, looks something like this, right? Just list the use case. Now you can go as fancy as you want with all this information and take this data dictionary and change it as much as you need it to change. Like if you like the user stories, for example, a user this should use this when these have whatever type of format or shape you want, that's fine. You can use whatever system you want, whatever format you're used to. But this is just like a general idea of what the data dictionary should be. So for me, I just write a paragraph. All right, we'll go into the examples a little bit later. Now, for the source systems, where is it that you're getting your data from? Which systems will give you the data that you need? And this tab on the worksheet, or this sheet on the worksheet, should answer these questions. Which systems and tables are you ingesting? What are the different table properties? What is the category? Is it a profile, engagement, or other? What's the primary key? If it is an engagement, which one is your event field? How often does the data changes? Right? When you ingest the data, there's an option to specify the refresh. You don't want to refresh every 5 minutes if your data changes once a day, because you will be consuming a lot of credits, and Data Cloud is going to be very expensive in that regard. Everything it's in Salesforce has started using a different charging model. I'm not going to talk about prices. Talk to your account executive, but I can have an idea of how the system works. You get credits, and they will be consumed either by volume of data or by amount of CPU used. Basically, that's it. There's a lot more than that. Talk to your AE, but basically that is. So there's no need to re-execute all the processes and load the data every 5 minutes if the data ain't changing, but once a day. Okay, so how often the data changes? And some tables can change daily. Some tables can change hourly. Some tables can be changed monthly. I don't know. So make sure that you don't refresh the data, or you don't ask the data to be refreshed more often. That is what the actually data is going to be available for. And also how to test that the data is loaded correctly. So this is what that sheet looks like. For example, I'm getting data from my Salesforce CRM. The data that I'm reading is either accounts, contacts, cases. Cases is an engagement, so it has an engagement datetime field. What are my primary keys? This will help me then run very, very simply run these SOCO queries and make sure that all the data, the test data at least while I'm building it, was loaded properly into the proper fields and all that stuff. So make sure that you go through that. All right, the next sheet on the spreadsheet is going to be source fields. So what are the fields that we're ingesting? So for each of the tables, describe the fields that you're being ingesting. So labels and API names, date formats. 2 digits versus 4 digits. If I had done the work here, I would have saved so much time trying to delete everything and recreate it again. Data types, source data type and data cloud type, which is not necessarily the same. Data cloud has a very limited set of options for data types. We have text number, date, time. A couple of weeks ago, they came out with a new data types for some operations, including Booleans and emails and URLs, but it's very, very, very limited. Your source data may be many, many more fields, and some of those fields will map to either text or number or date or whatever. Also define which are your primary keys, which are engagement fields, which formulas are you going to be using. So in this particular case, for the table that is coming from my system, Salesforce CRM, the table which is called contact, which is a profile, has these fields. Now, because I'm loading with the data bundle, some of these fields will be already be loaded and mapped, but some fields have to be manually set on the permission set and manually loaded and manually mapped. Okay, so then what are the from the source and what are they going to be mapping into? What is the different data type? Notice here there's a pick list. Well, we don't have a pick list, but that will be a text field in this other site, etc., etc. All right, so talk a little bit about theory, a little bit too much. I always like to talk a little bit about theory and then kind of try to ground that and make it something that is more understandable by giving some examples. So we're going to start with that, which is on the data dictionary. But first question for everybody, write it down. What sport is this? Just write it down on the chat window, please. Well, I guess it does depend of where you're calling from. In the US, they call it soccer. Everybody else in the world, they call it football. All right, cool. Now, second question. What is the name of absolutely football? What is the name of the worldwide global organization that organizes the World Cup every 4 years? 4 letters. Yeah, of course. Yes. All right. Good. Good. I'm glad most of you are familiar with that. Good. Now, I'm going to spell like this. F1, F4. I'm going to call it my FIFA. It's not, I'm going to talk about FIFA. I'm going to talk about my FIFA. Disclaimer, I do not know if FIFA is or is not a Salesforce customer. I do know that Salesforce has, and maybe it's available, it's you have probably seen it on different keynotes, Formula One, which is kind of a sport. And this week that just happened, I taught a class for Data Cloud 3 days workshop, and a couple of the students were actually from a basketball team in Indiana. So Pacers, go Pacers. They're actually a Data Cloud customer, but I don't know if FIFA is or is not. Okay, I'm going to talk about my FIFA. I don't want any lawyers calling me and saying, "Oh, you say that this, you say that." No, this is my FIFA, not your FIFA. All right, so my FIFA is a company. They sell tickets and merchandise to fans. They do that through a B2C commerce site. And the data is stored in Google Cloud Storage. This is actually the use case that I'm using in Medium for all the blogs that I'm writing in there, or that I have written in there so far. So they sell tickets and the fan create cases, like customer support cases. And for that, we are going to use Salesforce CRM. So we're going to start with use cases. My FIFA is going to have, want to understand the relationships between support cases and purchases. Things like, for example, customer with support cases and purchases. Who creates cases and who purchases? Or maybe who creates cases but doesn't purchase. Or maybe it doesn't create cases but purchase. Okay. Monitor support case resolution. That's something that also my FIFA is very interested in. customers with escalated support cases for over a month without resolution, because we want to follow up and make sure that everybody gets an answer within a month. Or promotion effectiveness. Customers with purchases using discounts in the last 6 months. These are going to be the use cases that my FIFA is going to use with Data Cloud. All right, so use cases drive the entire thing, the whole Data Cloud data flow, from ingesting, harmonizing, segmentations, activations. It should be the very first sheet on your worksheet. So just as a reminder, we have 3 use cases: support cases and purchases, 1, cases resolutions, 2, promotion effectiveness. Now, my FIFA has multiple systems. They have tournament management, players and teams database, payroll systems, Salesforce CRM for customer support, for cases, of course, order management, and some type of e-commerce platform. All right, so now I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and you're going to say yes, yay or nay, yes or no. Do you think that we need to bring data from the tournament management system into Data Cloud? Yes or no? I like that answer, Richard. Thank you, or Rich. Thank you. All right. Well, there's a couple good answers there.
Depends.
Yes and yes. Actually, which of the use cases indicates that we need tournament data? None of them. So we're not bringing that data. Oh, but we may need to have another use case in the future. In the future, you bring it, if that ever happens. But don't bring it, because that's not going to solve one of the use cases that we have. And we have only these 3 use cases here. All right. Next, eventually, yes, true. Yes, absolutely. Next question. What about play roles and teams? Oops, I gave the answer. Players and teams database. Are we going to bring that data? Are we going to bring players and teams database? All right, you guys are good. All right. What about payroll system? No. What about Salesforce CRM, customer support? Do we want to bring that? Oh, absolutely we do. Because we have couple use cases actually that deals with support cases. And order management? Oh, absolutely, because we have something to purchases and promotion effectiveness. What about every time a fan goes to FIFA, myfifa.com, and clicks a banner, we log that, and clicks on a watch a video, replays the video, wants to see the goal made again, or whatever, all this stuff. Do we need that? Do we need the clickstream data? Oh, I keep getting yes. Which of the 3 use cases that we have in here indicates that we do want the clickstream? Oh, I see what you guys are thinking. Okay, I see what you guys are thinking. I was actually thinking of a no. We don't need that data. I was thinking they will get a coupon, and we want to monitor the purchases that are made using that particular coupon. I don't care how the coupon was obtained, what clicks they made. So maybe that's something that I need to fix for this slide. I was thinking of a no. We don't need that for the clickstream. If for some reason we wanted to know, and there was a different use case that said watch what they do on the website, then we do need to bring the data. All right, cool. Not very clear on my end. Sorry. All right, so bring only the data that supports your use cases. That's kind of the lesson on this particular one. If we come up with a different use case that says, okay, based on the clickstream, I want to do this or that, well, then in that case, then do bring the e-commerce platform information. All right, so then I want to, this is my website. Anybody interested in it? I got a little message here. Let's see, click OK. All right, this is my website in case anybody is gonna watch that, read all the stuff that I've been reading about Medium. But I want to show you this worksheet that I built. Okay, it's kind of, we already talked about it. These are the different use cases that we have. These are the systems that we're bringing. We're bringing data from Salesforce CRM, accounts, contacts, cases, from CSV files and Google Cloud Storage. What is the category of each of those different tables? What are the primary keys? Notice that in one of the cases, we actually need to create a formula for that data because that primary key is actually not defined in the data that we're reading. These two are engagement categories, so we need the field. How is this going to be refreshed, hourly, full refresh, because we're getting that data in the system refreshed every hour. For the testing, I'm gonna build I'm gonna build some SQL queries. When I execute them, I should get 500 contacts and 274 cases and 20 products and 706 transactions. This is my test data. Another good thing is build good test data. Something representative but small. You don't want to test with millions and millions and millions of records because each of those cost money. You want to have a very small set for testing and building that will not consume too many credits, and maybe some additional notes in here. Then we have the different fields. So I'm going using personal accounts. This is how my FIFA deals with contacts. There are personal accounts, so I'm gonna delete whatever we have for accounts. For contacts, I want these fields. This is the data type of each of those fields. This is the primary key. These are gonna be formula fields, so they are not ingested from the source. This is what I'm gonna call them in the in Data Cloud. This is the data type in Data Cloud. These ones here I need to map manually or create manually because everything else will be done with the service bundle. I need to configure the permission sets. The formulas for these are gonna be FindID and FIFA. For the other object I'm bringing from Salesforce, which is the case object. And then for Google Cloud Storage, I have a table of funds, products, and sales transactions. What are the different fields in the CSV file? Which one is the primary key? I need, again, similar formulas because I'm going to do the party identification to match by fan ID. Different information here, the data types, a formula here. Make sure this is a 2 digits. I put it in red so I don't forget. There is 2 digits. All right, so that's kind of the first part of this session. The next part deals with harmonization. So for that, I'm going to ask you to kind of think about. You can get access to the sample data dictionary. I will post it somewhere. Please follow me up on LinkedIn. And when I post it, I'll make an announcement, and that's how you guys will know. Right now, I don't think I have. I think right now nobody has access except me because it's in my Google Drive or whatever. But I can put it somewhere that everybody has access to. That's a good idea. Danusha. All right, harmonization. Or the other thing is that is not in stone. Okay, if you need to change it, add more things, remove some things, please by all means feel free to change the format for whatever you use. Stu and I would teach a class which is called the SDC 101. It's a 3 days workshop. There's a different data dictionary we use there. It's the same idea, but the sheets are different, the fields are different, the columns are different. I like this one. I have proven it several times that I have to rebuild Data Cloud project because, of course, the org that I can get is only for 30 days. So every 30 days, I have to recreate it and I readjust or tweak and fix the data dictionary. So it's a live. The other thing that I'm kind of trying to say right here is it's a live document. Okay, but I will take a snapshot and send it to you guys somehow. When we have the recording or something, we'll put it there. All right, harmonization. First question is, why do you need to harmonize data? And for this, I want you to kind of think about two different points. The first point is, I'm going to assume that you guys know how to write or at least read a very simple SQL statement. I'm not talking about joins and left join, right join, none of that stuff. I'm talking about very, very basic SQL statement. Select field from table. I'm gonna assume that you guys are comfortable with that. Okay, so keep that thought, put a pin on it. We'll come back to that in 1 second. More than 1 second. Well, in a little moment. Point number two, it's let's suppose, I'm not gonna do this, of course, but let's suppose that I'm going to ask you to take a piece of paper and draw the schema of a database to be able to manage customer cases. Let's do that. You did it. Good job. How many tables do you do? Do you do one table, just a case, with information about the contact? Do you do 3 tables, account, contact, cases? Do you do more tables? What were the names of those tables? What were the names of those fields? Without knowing the structure, without knowing the names of the tables, without knowing the names of the fields, can you write that SQL statement? And the answer is no, we can't. Because we don't know what the name of the fields are. We don't know what the names of the tables are. That is the reason that Data Cloud gives you a database where you're going to put all your data in whichever format you want. If it is coming from 3, 5, 20 tables, I don't care. I want you to put those values into the Data Cloud database. Now that database, it's a picture of this database. Now this is a picture of that database, period. Sorry, sometimes I get conflicting thoughts on my brain. So this is the picture of that database. That picture is from that link. Not all the objects are on that particular picture. There's a lot of objects. These are called DMOs. There's a lot of DMOs. There's like 300 and some DMOs, at least 300 and something or 400 something. So of course, not everybody is depicted in this little picture here. But these are the most important, and it gives you an idea of the different objects that are provided on the database that Salesforce gives you. So there's a lot of UDB. A lot of what? UDB. What's UDB? Out of the box. So there's a lot of out of the box elements, which are objects, fields, relationships. It is extensible, which means you could create objects and fields, but handle with care. Just like in Salesforce CRM world, does not make sense to create accounts, contacts, cases, opportunities, campaigns, all that stuff, because there's a lot of logic built by Salesforce behind that. It doesn't make sense to create the objects that already exist. So, but if they don't exist, just like in Salesforce CRM, you're able to create your own custom objects or custom fields, _C. Similar here, you will be able to do the same. But make sure that you go through the documentation and actually find that there's no similar, we'll talk about that a little bit later, similar object or field that you may use. Because again, all the algorithms, including the SQL that we work on the previous slide, would only work if we know the names of the objects and the name of the tables. All right, cool. Now, so many tables are there that Salesforce decided that Data Cloud should have something like topics. Topics will allow you to find the objects in the database that we provide. And that topic is basically called the subject area. Subject area is something that you will see on the documentation, but you will not see on the tool itself. It's only a documentation thing. We have different subject areas: party, privacy, loyalty, engagement, sales order data, product. These are like the main topics that we have. And inside of them, each of the boxes, you have the main objects that belongs to each of those subject areas. There's a lot more objects, but these are like the main ones. Party subject area is probably one of the most important ones. So we're going to break that one down. At the middle, or the center of the subject area, there is something called the individual. The individual will have first name, last name, birthday, but it will not have email. It will not have phone. It will not have address, because they go into a different table. This data schema is very normalized, a lot of tables. That gives you the opportunity of having 50, 60, 100, 300 different emails for one single person. Okay. There's also other contact points, which are called the contact point social, contact point app. Notice that all these orange tables, they have the same name, contact point blank. We refer to them as contact point channel, right? Contact point email, contact point phone, contact point address, contact point app, contact point social. Those are typically called contact point channel. There's nothing really called contact point channel. It's just what we call all of these, instead of listing each of them every single little time. There's another very important table in here, which is called the party identification. This will allow you to identify your customers by a number: driver license, passport number, maybe my FIFA fan ID, maybe username, etc. Salesforce loves to have a lot of parties, so they try to bring that into here. All right, cool. Now, this is the UI that is used to do the harmonization, the mapping. On the left-hand side, you have your DLOs, data lake objects, which is basically the source data. I call them, in this context, in this picture, I call them the data left object, because they are on the left of the screen. On the right of the screen, we have the DMOs. One DLO record can be mapped to one record on different DMOs. So one record on the first DMO, one record on the second DMO, one record on the third DMO, etc., etc. You cannot map one record to two records of the same DMO. Okay. And the mappings are indicated through those train tracks, and each of those little bubbles there, or trains, is what represents the actual mapping itself. You can click it and get more information about that. On the DLO, the data left objects, the fields can be either not mapped, mapped once, 2, 3, 4, n number of times. Primary keys are usually mapped a lot of times because they not only belong to the parent primary key, but for each of the children, foreign key. So you will see the primary key mapped quite a bit. On the other side, you can only map 0 or 1. Either it is or it ain't. It is mapped or it is not mapped. Here in silver, you'll see the ones that have been mapped. And under the collapsible section, you'll see the fields that have not been mapped. All right, good. Now, that's the UI. But how do you actually harmonize this? What is the process? Well, you want to use the standard DMOs and fields, objects and fields, before creating custom ones. We talk about that. But how do you find the standard ones? Well, you're going to use documentation. You're going to use the subject areas and architecture diagrams. You're going to go into the standard DMOs, which are in the documentation, include objects, fields, and relationships, and they are very, very well defined and explained in the documentations in order for you to find the right standard DMO, object, field, and relationship that you need. And close enough is good enough. This is a very important topic, or very important statement. And this is actually going to be the very, very last slide of that we're going to cover today. So we're going to go into this again. Close enough is good enough. This is going to be very time consuming, going through all the documentation, finding out of the hundreds of objects, out of the hundreds of fields for each object, finding the one that you want to use. This is going to be very time consuming, especially for your first projects, while you get familiar with the documentation, while you get familiar with the different objects, while you get familiar with the different fields. Make sure that you're meeting the requirements. For example, there's some fields that are required. Primary keys are always required. If you have an engagement category, the date time field that indicates the when the engagement happens, that's also a required field. When you're doing identity resolution, segmentation, activation, you want to map your individual object, your contact point channel. Remember again, this is contact point address, email, phone, app, social. And you also want to map your party identification IDs, which is basically your party identification DMOs, which is basically the one that tells you that this particular customer has this number that in a different system will also be matching by the same number. Like in my FIFA, the fan ID. Each ID whose register has a number. It could be a username, could be anything else. And each of the objects will have that party field that we saw. We like to party. So which is a foreign key to the individual object. The contact point channels will have their own required fields. Contact point phone requires country and phone and this and that. So each of them will have their own requirements. And there's also requirements for mapping when it comes to the category, profile, engagement, and other, because engagement DLOs are the only ones that can be mapped from or to engagement DMOs. And engagement DMOs can only be mapped from engagement DLOs. Profile and category, they can be mixed. So a profile can go into another can be into another, into a profile, any combination there. But engagement to engagement, that's a required mapping. So then we're going to have information about this on our harmonization sheet on the data dictionary, which it's basically that for each DLO, describe the DMO, objects and fields that are going to be mapped. Group the mappings by DMO. A DLO to DMO, the field names. What is the field name on the DLO? What is the field on the DMO? If a DLO needs to be mapped multiple times, as we saw with the case of a primary key, then put several lines in that sheet that indicates that it will be mapped multiple times. And that looks something like this. And in the case of the contact ID and contact ID and contact ID and contact ID, it gets mapped to multiple things in multiple fields. So it's listed multiple times. So in this case, in the first case, I'm mapping to the primary key and whatever else needs to be mapped. All right, let's go through case study. Let's take a look at some real interesting things that could or would need to be treated a little bit differently when you're doing the harmonization. Let's start with this data. This is a data that contains my fans, my FIFA fans. Notice that fans have 1 or 2 emails. Okay, this is kind of important for the story, for the next set of things that we're going to talk about. So any fan could have up to 2 emails. We may have personal and corporate or business or whatever you want to call it. Okay. So we're going to map that. Easy. We mapped email 1 to email address, fan ID to both the primary key and the party. Good. But what about email 2? Well, you can't do this. You're not allowed to map 2 fields to 1 field. Can't do that. You cannot map 1 row to 2 rows. Can't do that. So then you're going to have to do something special, which basically takes me to my favorite tool in Salesforce or in Data Cloud, the data transform. in here, I'm going to take the original table that I did show you a couple of slides back. I'm going to get the first column, email 1. I'm going to drop email 2. I'm going to create a primary key. I'm going to do the same thing for the other ones, for the second email, where I drop email 1 and I create a primary key. Then I merge all the data and then I write it into a another DLO. So every DSO has a corresponding DLO, but not every DLO has a corresponding DSO, because some DLOs could be generated by data cloud, not necessarily ingested from an external system. So this is the input, right? I showed you this few slides back. This is the input for fans for this process. That's the output. That's what gets generated over here. We took one row and we make 2 rows. Now, we had a primary key for the fan, but now we use that primary key. We can't, because primary keys must be unique. So we must generate a primary key for each record. And that's what this icon here is doing, or this node right here is doing, creating those primary keys, which is going to be basically the original ID plus the word email 1 or the word email 2. So once we have that output from a DLO, then we will be able to map it. We only have one email. Actually, let's go back. We only have one email column field, one email field. Now we have multiple emails for one person. Okay, that's fine. But we only have one email field. So that email field gets mapped to email address. We don't have to worry about that anymore. All right. Now here's another kind of different use case that you also need to manipulate your data with a data transform. And it's a case of a purchase. So if we go into a different, this is a slightly different diagram from the one that we saw. It's basically also located in architects, that salesforce.com diagrams. You go there, you'll find this there. And where we're dealing with here, it's the orders, what customers are purchasing. Those t-shirts or shoes or socks or flags or posters or whatever that they buy at MyFIFA. So then this is what the data looks like. But in here, if you noticed, there's one order ID, which is 13049, has multiple records because the fan put few things in their shopping basket while they were doing shopping, and created one single order for 4 different products. So this table is mixed, this denormalized, mixing orders and products purchased on that order. But if you remember from the previous slide, those are 2 different objects, because data cloud is very denormalized. So in this case, what we're going to need to do is group all these 4 into one, get a total number of how much they actually paid for a particular product, and for the order, sorry, add those values together so we know how much they paid. And we're going to do this with this different data transform, where in this case, we are starting with that table that we just talked about. And we're going to get the row level values. If they purchase 3 of these items, then we multiply that amount times 3, of course. We remove duplicates and calculate the totals. This is something kind of weird I'm doing here, is basically recovering from the original table the date time field, so that we have it right here. So we didn't have to group by that. Because if we group by date time, then we may be not being able to collapse all the orders. Then we do some cleaning. It's also actually a good idea to put some nodes in here that you're gonna test. This test, for example, could say, okay, tell me how many records are there for 1349. There should be 6. Tell me how many records are for 1349. Only 1. What was the prices here? What is the total price, right? So some checks. Make sure you build yourself some safeguards. Then we drop the columns that we don't need, and then we write that into a DLO. So then after that, we end up with this table where each order is one row. Each person purchased one order. Everything that they purchased was this total, and the date order field is this guy, because that's a very important field, since this is going to be an engagement and we need a date time field for this. All right, so because we're going to create several DLOs, it's also a good idea to write them down. What are the DLOs that we're going to be writing? Why do you need this? How is it going to be called? It's going to be called finite D case. Okay, why do we need it? What is the category? What fields is it going to have? And which data transform is going to create that? And what is the primary key? Same thing for this one, same thing for the other one. And also, once we do the transformation, now we can map it, and we can say that these fields will be mapped to these particular fields. If it's a CRM, you need to probably have a column. I like it at least that way. You have one column that indicates that, yes, you have to do this manually. No, it will be part of the data bundle. And then for data cloud, for a Google Cloud Storage, of course, that manual is not there because there's no data bundle. So slightly different, but basically it's the same idea. Which columns are going to be mapped to what, including your custom DLOs, which there's no system for that. They were created. These are the ones that we created on this particular sheet here, created from a data transform, and indicate what is it being mapped to, right? I like to use red to highlight and remember, oh, this is very important. Make sure I follow this. All right, so that's basically that data sheet. And then there's couple more things. It's when you're doing a mapping from DLO to DMO, it may not necessarily be the same field name. And your field name on the DLO may not necessarily match the DMO. So you cannot just map by names. Use the descriptions. So for example, in our DLO, we have a field called quantity, and that represents quantity fulfilled. So the names are different. How do I know it's quantity fulfilled? It's because the description and the documentation says that is the quantity of a sales order product that is provided. Now, actually, on that particular table, quantity can have different meanings. In that standard DMO, there are 6 different quantity fields: allocated quantity, available quantity, order quantity, quantity fulfilled, subscription renewal month quality, and subscription 10 quantity. Right? There's multiple quantities. So don't do just the name by the mapping, by the field name. Do them by the description. And that takes us to the end, which is the summary of everything we have talked about. This is what I want you to do. 1, start with use cases. They are the most important thing. Everything that is in the use case is what I will do. Whatever is not on the use case, I'm not going to do it. Build a data dictionary. Use standard DMOs, objects and fields, and relationships. They are described on the documentation. You can use subject areas and architecture diagrams to find what is the standard DMOs you want. Invest a lot of time in the design. A good design minimizes, not eliminates, of course, but minimizes the errors or mistakes that can happen while implementing Data Cloud. And you saw how difficult it is to fix mistakes. So easy to make, hard to fix. Try to minimize them. Use data transforms to prepare the data. If you are consultants or partners, talk to the chicken holders. They are the ones that will tell you what the data, what means. They're going to help you build the data dictionary, basically. Don't just start by clicking buttons. Don't create custom DMO objects fields unless you're already been on the documentation, read it twice, and make sure that there's no standard one that can actually somehow fit your need. Remember, we're not going to find a quantity field. Close enough is good enough. Go by the definition of the descriptions. Don't just create random fields just because, hopefully I'm not going to say this to you guys, but don't just create because you're too lazy to go back into documentation and find it. Make sure you go and find it. Take your time. It's going to be slow. It's going to be time consuming. And basically, that's the end of this particular session. All right. So, Shipa, were there any questions? Wow, I wasn't looking at the chat. Was there any pending questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some people here in the room who have some questions.
Okay, let's start with those.
So you can just come over.
You want to come to the mic?
Yeah, you can come over. Please go have one.
Thank you so much, Andreas, for the wonderful presentation. I
Thank
have
you.
a question. It's regarding the refresh. So last year we were doing one POC with one of the customers, and as you mentioned that the data cloud is completely based on the credits, right? So the data was getting, so in our case, the data was getting intake from Sales Cloud and Service Cloud and a couple of other sources like AWS S3. So we had the control to refresh the data from AWS and
Yes.
other sources. But from Sales and Service Cloud, the objects which were getting imported, they had like mandatory 24 hours a refresh. Like after 24 hours, they were mandatorily getting refreshed, which ultimately led to increase in the credits a lot because it was kind of, and it is not even the delta refresh, it was the full refresh actually.
Yeah, yeah.
So just wanted to check with you if there is anything or any new feature or new enablement which has come up which will help in controlling this kind of refresh, because we really did want to, we were just doing POC at that point of time, and we really want the data to be refreshed like whole and increase the, credits. So is there any feature which has been developed which will just say that, okay, refresh once in 7 days or stop the refresh for the sales service and other Salesforce cloud objects?
There was one, there's one change that happened, or maybe it's still a pilot, which was going to be, when we were in New York, Stuart and I were in New York back in December, there was a pilot for doing, Data Cloud will be doing streaming API. So every change will be actually reported by one record at a time. So, but then do the full refresh every hour, sorry, did I just say that? Every day. I don't think that has changed yet. And there's, unfortunately, if you do it through the bundle, I know that if you do it through a bundle, there's nothing you can change. Now, if you do it through the, because when you ingest data, you can go through bundled or other, like to bring any other object. If you do it from there may be, I don't know about that, I'm not quite sure. There may be other options, but I think that it's pretty much, that's the way it works. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Anybody else in the room? Ashok? Okay, you can come up. Yeah, we have another question.
We have another question in the room. We're playing musical chairs, apparently.
So hi everyone, I'm Sebastian. I have a quick question. I mean, I wanted to save it for last, but it's more not related to Data Cloud, but what inspired you to use FIFA as like the I guess like the example in this case?
That's a really cool question. I don't think I've ever been asked that one. I wanted to build a case story around a company. So it could be any company. And I would like Amazon or like real, there's a lot of sample companies in Salesforce demos, like realty to buy houses. And I was like, no, let's do something fun. I want to do something fun. And then I accidentally view a video from a keynote about Formula One. And that video was like really, really cool. Say, you know what? People are probably going to have more fun if I do a sport. Which sport is known globally? Okay. Because if I do like American football, well, only the US will get it. If I do cricket, which I have no idea what it is, only people in India will get it. So we need a sport that everybody knows about. And so that's why I chose soccer, and therefore I chose FIFA as the sample company.
Cool. Thank you.
Good question.
Rich had some questions from the virtual side. Rich, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your questions?
Sure. Hi, Andreas. Good to hear from you. Fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
My first one was in terms of testing. You know, that's a favorite area of mine. How do you, where I've set data cloud up, I've always kind of done it with production data, and I'm not in control of my testing. So how do I set things up and not have to redo things? If I set it all up for test data and maybe a sandbox as my CRM source, can I just flip the source systems afterwards to move to
Well,
production?
if you are reading data from Amazon or S3 buckets or whatever, you just replace those files and you refresh, and that goes that not a problem right there. It's a little bit more complicated when you do Salesforce orgs, because the names of not the org names, but the org IDs are actually going to be part of your object. So if you ingest from a different environment, then you will get a different name. Now, having said all that, there's one more thing that I didn't talk about. I didn't see it. I didn't saw that it was necessary, which is very important and very critical. And Safe Harbor is about to change. You must do everything in production, and there's no sandboxes. Say what? Yes, exactly. So that's a big challenge. Now, I have heard rumors, Safe Harbor, that later this year, they will have the ability of being able to do sandboxes. When they do sandboxes, they should, hopefully, fingers crossed, come with a better way of deployments and a better way of being able to connect to different environments, hopefully just in one centralized place where you can just change the org that you're connected to without having to change different org IDs. So right now, that's actually it's a challenge.
Okay. And the other question was, in Spring 24, we got the new data cloud related lists and the copy fields. Have you had a chance to use those in your example, and were there any gotchas when you use them? Because I've not tried them yet.
Okay, so yes, I have. There's two ways that you can have data cloud installed or configured. One is if you only have one production environment, then you keep your data cloud in that single production environment. If you have multiple production environments, let's say you have 5 production environments, and you want to use data cloud, then the question is on which of those 5 you're going to put it, and the answer is in none of them. You're going to have an isolated data cloud environment and be able to ingest from all the other 5 production environments. When it's on the same environment, this is again Safe Harbor. When it is in the same environment, those things that you just mentioned, they do work quite well. Just with clicks, you can enhance your pages with the app builder and drag different elements, engagement and related lists and things like that. And that works out of the box. And I do have one article on my blog about that. The other option is when you have different environments, there's nothing out of the box. Safe Harbor, they may build one eventually. But then right now you actually have to do a lot of hard coding yourself, build your own Lightning Web components, connect to Data Cloud through Apex Connect API that gets you access to Data Cloud, brings your data, all this stuff. There's also a couple articles on my blog post on my on Medium, eltoro.it. Disclaimer: that's behind a firewall, not a firewall, sorry, a paywall. But there's a couple articles in there that will show you how you use the API. One of them is in Postman. And then the follow-up article after that one is, okay, now that you know the Postman side of things, let's do the same thing in Apex. So then, or Lightning Web components or whatever. So you're gonna have to write code if they're not on the same org. And I do have some articles for that on my eltoro.it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we have quite a few questions, I guess. So the next one was Natalia said, can you go back to the do's and don'ts?
Yeah, this I did that already here. I did see
Okay.
that one.
Wait, so then is that okay? Then we can move on to Samir.
Yes.
So-
I can handle it. I can handle it. Can handle it from here. Shiva. No, not Shiva. Sorry, I read the name on your thing.
No worries.
Krish. Don't change names, please. You may confuse me. I'm just kidding. So, what are the different AI modules? Different is my own word. What are AI modules available on top of Data Cloud? That's actually something quite interesting. In two different aspects. There is one of the. Actually, gonna go back to here. Segmentations, which is one of the things that happened here. It's not on that picture. Segmentations, it's something that allows you to filter your buckets. Find the customers who blank, who purchase, who didn't purchase, who created cases, who didn't create cases, right? So out of your 3,000 funds, 550 million funds or 500, whatever number there is, find me the 20 that I want to market. Okay, so that's basically segments. There is an Einstein builder that helps you build those segments. Take everything in AI with a grain of salt, because the results will probably have to be fine-tuned, but it will give you a head start. That's on that side. On the other side, it's Einstein GPT with the help of Prompt Builder have the ability of being able to ask any question to your org and get an answer from the org back. But for that, in order to be useful, your prompts have to be grounded. And basically that means provide additional data to the prompt, okay? So, and Data Cloud is one of the possible sources that you can use to ground that data. I am in the process of thinking about building another session like this that actually mixes Einstein GPT with Prompt Builder and Data Cloud. I haven't seen that one yet, so I want to build it. And maybe if Shiva brings me over again, I'll go through that one next time we're together.
Would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.
Just a quick one on what you have mentioned. So prompt builder, what I understood is only for the Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, or it is across all the clouds?
No, it's across all the clouds because it works in Salesforce Core. Well, I guess not in all the clouds. Yeah, no, Sales Cloud and Service Cloud. Yes, it's basically in Salesforce Core. But On Dreamforce of last year, I think Mark Benioff said that there was a goal of bringing everything in core. And then in that case, once that happens, not yet, safe harbor, I guess everything will be inside there and you will be able to use that. There's another, let me find one slide here. That goes probably in this drive on AI. And that deck. You guys probably seen this picture before.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where are you? This one. Where we have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, that with Einstein and Data Cloud. Einstein will give you the smartness, and Data Cloud will bring any data so that you have a complete view of your customer, and you can use that within Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, I guess eventually Marketing Cloud, Commerce Clouds, and all the other clouds as well.
Yeah. So I was at TDX this year, and what I understood that right now they have a prompt builder in Salesforce Core, and model builder is being implemented as a part of Data Cloud as well, where you can bring our own model for.
Yep.
I think it's a vast topic. We can maybe touch base in another.
Yeah,
session.
that's a different topic.
Session.
That's a different session completely, and I would love to build that. And if there's any community leaders like Shiva and Krish who are building, who are running these sessions, either here with me today or maybe watching the recording, and you want me to talk with, present these sessions at your events, please ping me on LinkedIn. I would love to help.
Maybe we can run a model builder session in the future, model prompt builder.
Yep. I'm
Then
thinking about that with Data Cloud. I'm specifically focused on Data Cloud. Data Cloud is huge.
pretty much features are
Yeah.
that are
So,
being added are kind of in that direction nowadays. I see like all these new AI announcements, right?
yeah, well, there's a lot. But Einstein or AI without data is useless. Yeah, actually part of this deck, but I want to go through the rest of the questions, make sure that there's nothing that we are not covering. If we want to, we can come back later to this topic and show you basically. This is a very short deck. I use it in one of my in the Data Cloud class to introduce the importance of Data Cloud. So maybe it's like a 5 minutes long. Maybe we'll touch base. I want to make sure that there's no remaining questions here. So Christina, can you touch on any insights about harmonization profiles? We're working with a customer that wants to use leads that have minimal information, first name, last name, company title. If there's a use case that says, and also include the leads, yeah, bring it in. And not sure what you want to do with those leads, of course, because they haven't been connected to a campaigns or something. They may be related. It may be a lead on your Salesforce CRM, but maybe not on your website system or whatever. So we can do, yeah. I guess the important part here is make sure that you're doing it through the use cases. What should be the approach of if a customer is building a data cloud for the first time? I think that's basically a summary of the whole session that we just did. Is there templates for client 360 view? Not exactly what you mean. Samir, can you come offline or off mute?
Yeah, one of the goal for the customer is to ingest all the data and start showing all those data related to accounts, for example, and in a 360 view kind of. So is there like a prototype or template that we can use out of the box, or we have to build it from scratch?
Well, first of all, I am concerned with the fact that you're saying that they want to bring all the data. Make sure that it's all the data for the use cases that you want to solve. So
Yes.
start with that.
Agree with it. Your
Okay.
point.
Then number two, if you are, and this is kind of related to the question that Rich asked earlier, if you are in the same, if Data Cloud is in the same org
Yes.
as your Salesforce CRM, then there's a lot of out of the box components that you can use on the app builder to build and enhance your page. You may have seen some of those really cool demos on the keynotes. If it is different org, you will probably have to do a lot of coding yourself up to right now. So as far as templates, it's out of the box. If they're on the same org, you just click and configure and done, and you're done. And it's very easy. If it is different orgs, then there's a lot more work to do.
Got you. Thank you.
Absolutely. What are some of the interesting Data Cloud use cases you've encountered in the banking fund? Oh, funny, interesting. Funny that, oh, buddy, it's asking about that one, because we do talk. That's one of the use cases that I do talk about on the class that it's a 3 days long workshop. There's a bank, cannot give names, of course, that uses Data Cloud for fraud detection of the credit cards. And the way they do it is Data Cloud. The whole idea of Data Cloud is to be able to get a 360-degree view of your customer. And if the customer, let's say for the most simplistic and obviously and easy to understand example, a customer has a credit card. That person only purchases with that credit card on the first 5 days of each month to pay for electricity, water, rent, and like that. And that person doesn't use the credit card for the rest of the month. Okay. So we know the customer. I'm oversimplifying things, obviously. We know the customer. When there's a charge to the credit card, there is an event that gets fired, and there's data records that get loaded into Data Cloud at real time or near real time that says this person bought this person bought this item, this much, this date, whatever. If we detect that that person is usually not buying that because it's on the 20th of the month and it's maybe some diamond or whatever, we're gonna say, this does not comply with the things that the customer usually purchased. We're gonna flag that and then send it to the fraud detection system inside the bank or something like that. Something like that. Very obviously, I'm oversimplifying things just to make the example a little bit more clear. But that's a really interesting use case of a Data Cloud, by which it's possible because now you know from all your different systems, you know, and you have a full view of your customer. All right, Rich, in Spring 24, we gain new feature. Oh, I think this is probably what you, let me read it. It's probably what you asked. We gained some new DC feature for related lists and copy fields to push values back into you. Have you tried to work in the, and you got you. Okay, yeah, we talk about that. The next question Samir asked, it's the zero ETL ingestion from a Snowflake and Data Cloud. The only thing I can comment on that is because it's that I've heard about it, but I have not played with that. That would be a fantastic session. All right, we'll build it. Do we have any other products competitor to Data Cloud? That's also a very interesting question, Dilip. No. But let me give you a fuller, more complete answer. Data Cloud, some of the things that it does, it's some of the things that it kind of does: master data management, golden record. There are many other tools that do that. But Data Cloud is not about the golden record. And that's probably another session that I should probably build. Data Cloud is about the full knowing of the whole information of everything that we know about the customer, not just the best pieces of information that we know, like the best first name, best email, best phone number, like the golden record does. But when we create the buckets, actually, I wasn't planning on showing. Oh wait, hold on. I closed the chat instead of closing the deck. There's another slide that I have because I've been thinking about it quite a bit. It's when you get the information for your customer, all the information, you're going to throw that inside a bucket. And there is going to be a little sticky note or label, sticky or label that is going to give you the best name that we have for that particular person. Some systems may consider this to be like the golden record, but the goal of Data Cloud is not to create the label. The Data Cloud is to create the bucket. Okay. Point number one. And there may be other tools that may or may not be useful or similar there. What there's actually a huge difference is that Data Cloud is the only tool that Einstein GPT can use to ground their prompts. There's no other tool that can do that inside Salesforce. Do we have any other programs? This is in process. Can you handle JSON array from data ingesting? As far as I've seen, it's only CSV. JSON, you would have to do that through ingestion API, so you have to throw some code together for that. Great question, thank you. Can we filter data while ingesting based on the record type? Yes. When you are ingesting data, let's see if I still have an org. Maybe the org from a few weeks back. When you ingest data, it's going to take me too long to get there and show you the screen. You just trust me. There's a way to set filters, and you say only the filters with this particular ID. So you can definitely do that. So like when you have personal accounts and regular accounts, the only difference really, well, not the only, but one of the main difference really is that the record type is different. So you could load your data for accounts for record types that are not the personal account record types. Garbage in, garbage out. Absolutely. Clean your data. Absolutely. Are there any app exchange perks for Data Cloud? I don't know of any, but that is another good reason why Salesforce is actually strongly recommended that you don't create custom objects and custom DMOs and custom fields, because then creating algorithms for Data Cloud will be really hard. Creating algorithms will be really hard. And if you stick with the standard ones, then just like in regular Salesforce CRM, partners can create for your accounts, contacts, cases, because we know the schema. Similarly, we should be able to know the schema if you stick with the Customer 360 data model provided by Salesforce. Rich has another question. If I'm not using Marketing Cloud, let's say Hotspot instead, I can ingest the marketing data using the ingestion API, but I can also create actions after building my segments to push back into HubSpot without using MuleSoft. Absolutely. Yes, you can. Definitely. You can, one of the exercises we do in the 3 days workshop is send the data through, we don't do a lot of APIs just because it's an administrator's class. But we do data CSV files in Amazon S3 to read and export the data into, and then I guess your system will pick up from S3, or there could be other ways to do the connections directly. If you wanted to do it, for example, from a flow or something like that, you could probably do that as well without having to use MuleSoft. But the advantage of MuleSoft is that you can do it without having to write it. Without MuleSoft, you have to write it, and the problem is not writing the code. The problem is maintaining the code, right? Because now you're tied to maintain it forever. If someone is looking for a job, can we hope that passing the data cloud certification improves chances of finding a job? And how to sell this skill to your experiences limit to a playground org? I'm not a partner to have access to the dev org. Yeah. So one note for Ella, which not the question that she's asking, but if you're a partner, there's a way to get a developer, not a developer org, but a demo org with Data Cloud for a month. If you're not a partner, so far the Trailhead will give you only one org, which is very, very limited. Safe Harbor, we are thinking on building more trails in Trailhead that will allow you to get a full org and be able to do a lot more. I think that there's good chance. I cannot say anything about it, but don't take my word, but Data Cloud is becoming really, really, really hot inside Salesforce and with the customers. So if you become certified, there will be higher chances of getting a job. I cannot make any guarantees, of course, on that one. Danusha, can you also touch base on any use cases you have seen around contact center operations and healthcare? All right. So with regards to use cases, the answer is very, very simple. Anytime that you can have a full, or that you want to have, or that it will benefit you of having a 360-degree view of your customer, of everything that your customer has done, that would be a great use case for Data Cloud. So there's a lot of them. Thanks, Vivian, for thanking me. What is zero copy? Delete zero copy. It's something that it's still in pilot, I think. It's not even released yet. It's not even released, not yet. Safe Harbor. It will be having your own other, well, Rich answered. Zero copy only applies to certain sources like Snowflake, which is a data lake, but you can push the segments back into Marketing Cloud to execute the campaigns without code, without having to copy. So we are probably familiar with the word ETL, extract, transform, load. Zero copy is just basically moving the data from one point to another without having to do all that stuff. And yes, without code. And it will be, there is some announcements, and I actually made an announcement on my LinkedIn feed. Maybe you saw it, that it will be both for input and output, but I haven't played with that yet. Does using Udbu MuleSoft connector cost more? Well, you need a MuleSoft license, so yes, it will connect. It will cost more. It will at least connect the license. It costs the license, the price of the license. Nice presentation. Thanks, Shiva and Krish. Thank you. What good use case for engagement DMO? Engagement DMO. Engagement is a category. We have 3 categories: profiles, engagement, and other. Anything that has a timestamp, it's an engagement category DMO. I don't remember the actual, if there is or is not, an actual DMO called engagement. Shiva, can we move data from one org to the other one using Data Cloud? No, that's not really the idea of Data Cloud. The Data Cloud is not for that. The Data Cloud is basically for getting the customer 360 view. That would be fantastic for practice and working with the data cloud concepts. I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Is DC Data Cloud a prerequisite for copilots? Copilots as in Einstein Copilot? Yes. Einstein does require data cloud. If we want to mash up and serve insights from two data sources, Service Cloud and PDFs. PDFs is something that is in pilot still or not GA, not yet, which is called RAFG. No, it's not RAFG. God, no, RAFG is something else. RAG, which is a vector database. That's not GA yet, I don't think. We would want to serve in real time and not ingest with me. What? Is this a prerequisite for pilots? Yes. If we want to mash up and serve insights from two data sources, PDF, meaning we want to serve in real time and not ingest, would means tell data. Yeah, there's one thing that you have to think about is that there's nothing called really real time. It's near real time, which means it's not immediately. Actually, this week in class, we were having a very heated discussion about that. Because a customer wanted, we're thinking if it was possible, which is not, to be able to, when you do a shopping on Walmart, get a coupon at the time you're paying so that you can redeem that before you actually finish paying and stuff. No, things take time. Minutes, hours, sure. So it's not really immediately. So that means that, yes, it could probably be still data. So you always have to assume the data is still. This was great. Thank you so much. Well, thanks, guys. It would have not been possible without you guys. Thank you for showing up. Do we have any document which gives us what we deliver and what's coming up? I'm sure. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Internally, yes. Externally, I'm not sure. Will the data cloud could be counted against this data store? That's another question that I have been asked a lot. Will the data in data cloud be counted against data storage limits of the org? And the answer is no. Data cloud stores its data in a different environment. It actually stores it in Amazon S3 as Parquet files. It does not store that in Salesforce org. So the storage is different. Rich, thank you, Shiva and Krish, for a great session and for opening the global Ohana. Thank you. Great work, Andres. Thank you. Thank you for your time and blogs. Thank you. I hope you can do this equal subject just in your architecture. Well, if you invite me, oh gosh, he dropped. I need to follow up with him. I need to follow up with Rich. If he dropped, I think he said bye for now. So I don't know. Plus it's 1 a.m. for him, I think. So I'll follow up with him.
I have a quick question about, so firstly, thanks for the presentation. So if an organization already has something like a enterprise data warehouse where all the systems are already sort of integrated and you get a one kind of a customer 360 or basically data flowing from all the tools, is this the use case for data cloud or is this a kind of a replacement that you're thinking?
Kind of a replacement, but your system does not leverage Einstein prompts. So that's what's different there.
Okay, so what goes on top of data clouds, that's the only difference.
But basically, it's kind of the same idea. It's kind of collect data, get a customer 360 view. So if you already have that, we can use data cloud for Einstein. We can leverage, I have heard that I've never done it, that you can actually leverage that because that's going to be a lake. You can connect to that lake and leverage what you already have and provide that into Einstein.
And I guess a follow-up question would be, if this is a replacement, what are the different applications that are supported? So till now I've heard it's only the AWS or Google Cloud, but are the other things like SAP?
Snowflake is another one, big one.
So what about all the ERP systems, Oracle, Workday, all the PeopleSoft, or all the legacy things? Are they also able to connect, or do we need some ETL tool like MuleSoft, Informatica, or something else?
Not well, you could connect to that through you can connect through that through MuleSoft.
Oh, so that's a different, it would require a different license.
Yeah, let me get this comment. I think Chris, well, not Chris, Rich Clark, are you still on the line or do you hang up? You probably hung up. All right, I'm sending him a direct message because I am interested in whatever he typed in here. You're dreaming in May. They do have that, and if he's an organizer of that, then I would love to participate. All right, what a wonderful session. Thank you, Andres, Shiva, Krish. Thank you, Andres. Thank you. Power BI. What the heck is Power BI? What is Power BI? Where is that, Samir?
Microsoft.
I don't know what that one is. I don't know what it is or what it doesn't do, so I cannot comment on that. For the session, all ERPs are there, as I know. No-native Salesforce, their prompt. All right, we went through the chat. Woo. All right, I'm tired. Please follow me on LinkedIn. We'll post this video. We'll post the slides. Thank you. We'll post the data dictionary. I had not thought about that.
Yeah, so I will post the video end of April on YouTube and slides, and the data dictionary as well. So I will reach out and to you, Andres, and I can email to everyone.
Good.
So you can have it. Thanks everyone for coming and showing all your passion for the subject. So really interesting presentation, and thanks, Andres, for such a wonderful session and just sharing it with all with so much vigor and enthusiasm. So yeah, I think that's it, and we really used our time really well today, and look forward to going through the video once more. And everybody have a great weekend. Have a great Easter. Enjoy the weekend.
And Holi. You mentioned at the beginning there was something called Holi. What is that?
Holi, yeah, it's our Indian festival, and it's a festival of colors. So you go out.
I've seen that. I've seen the Festival of Colors.
Yeah, it's just everybody. It's fun. It's a fun
Really
fest.
great. It's really fun to watch all the colors, dust, and everything in the air.
Yes, that is pretty cool.
Kind of a unifying experience. Everybody looks the same.
Unification.
This was really awesome. This was really awesome. Thank you so much for that presentation. And it was well worth my time on a Saturday. I've got to tell you, this is one of the best presentations. Of course, Andres. You're always amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to leave for now. And thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Happy Easter. Happy Holi.
Happy Holi. Happy Easter.
I'll throw some colors there.
Bye.